Mangwana ni malelepo fukenjani kleklas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show that remains your portal into Africa's most potent stories. You are joined by Ashwin Mberi. These are some of the stories that we'll be looking at. Namibia marks the Day of the African Child. Migrants with long South African ties flee xenophobic violence. William Ruto of Kenya defends fuel price measures as government cuts diesel costs. South African meat exporters warn of billions lost through market delays. And Somali referee who was barred from the US World Cup duty is going to receive his full FIFA payment. But first, as I said, Namibia joins the rest of the continent in commemorating the Day of the African Child today on the 16th of June, a day dedicated to honoring the courage and sacrifice of the young people who took part in the 1976 Soweto uprising in South Africa. The occasion serves as an important reminder of the need to protect and advance the rights of children across Africa. In Namibia, the commemoration provides an opportunity to reflect on progress achieved in ensuring that children have access to education, healthcare, protection, and opportunities that enable them to reach their full potential. Happy International Day of the African Child. Speaking of some African children, albeit some of them have beards now, who made us proud at the World Cup. Let's have a look at some of the results. This was an interesting game. Mohamed Salah and the Egyptian Pharaohs managing a draw with Belgium. This was an exciting game with high energy and impact. Romelu Lukaku came and equalized for Belgium within a minute of being subbed on in the second half. Oh yes, of course, not necessarily African, but certainly worth mentioning Iran. A draw with New Zealand in one of the more emphatic games of this FIFA World Cup. New Zealand going ahead first, Iran following through in the 33rd minute, and then just yet again scoring for New Zealand, and Iran saying it is not quite over. And of course, we have to talk about Cabo Verde, a country of just a small population managing a draw with the European champions, Spain. What an incredible feat that is, and we'll certainly be paying attention to them as the World Cup progresses. As we said, this is Africa Good Morning. We head into your top stories shortly.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises, from artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative sport tourism.
All right, this is Africa Good Morning. It's time to get into the rest of our top stories. When 33-year-old Princess Adeji opened her hair salon in downtown Durban, she had already spent most of her life in South Africa after moving from Ghana as a toddler. She completed her schooling in South Africa and has local friends and speaks isiZulu. On May 18, demonstrators at an anti-migrant march broke into her salon and looted it. Adeji is among scores of victims of attacks targeting mostly African foreign nationals accused by an anti-immigration movement of being in South Africa illegally. She said looters took everything from her salon, including her pieces, acrylic nails, hair dryers and shampoos. After spending 50,000 rand renovating the salon in February, she has now moved out of her apartment and sleeps on the street with her 14-year-old son alongside about 200 migrants. Violence has killed at least 5 people. March and March founder Jacinta Ngobese denied responsibility for violence, saying the movement is not responsible for attacks. Migrants interviewed by Reuters said police moved them between shelters before telling them to leave. Analysts say migrants are often viewed as competition for jobs and services, becoming scapegoats when shortages arise or government services fail. And in some interesting updates in relation to that, we know the Daily Maverick recently reported just last night that some ties have been linked between the anti-migrant groups and Russia. So we're going to have a look at that, and we'll certainly bring you that story tomorrow. And keeping in mind that South Africa's foreign minister yesterday stated that some South African artists have complained to her as their gigs are starting to be cancelled across African nations, and this is in solidarity with those who are wishing for the xenophobic tensions to end. We'll be giving you those updates as the week progresses. But for now, we swing to Kenya as President William Ruto has reaffirmed his commitment to stabilizing fuel prices after EPRA announced a 10 shilling diesel reduction supported by a 10 billion shilling subsidy. Speaking during a church service at Nkarusha Seventh-day Adventist Church in Kajiado County, Ruto said the government remains committed to moderating fuel prices and maintaining a stable supply of petroleum products despite escalating geopolitical tensions that have pushed up global crude oil prices. EPRA announced a 10 shilling per litre reduction in diesel prices, bringing the Nairobi pump price to 222.86 effective midnight. Super Petrol fell by 22 cents to 214.03 per litre, while kerosene remained unchanged at 191.38 shillings per litre. Now let's talk about South Africa's agriculture exports, which continue to grow and new overseas markets are opening, but the meat industry says bureaucratic delays are preventing producers from accessing willing buyers in important foreign destinations. Meat exporters say delays in restoring access to key markets are costing the industry billions of rand lost in sales. Industry estimates indicates that the loss of the Qatar lamb market alone has cost producers about 1.5 billion rand since 2024. The concerns emerged despite strong agricultural export growth and government efforts to secure new markets. Exporters warn that prolonged delays could result in overseas buyers permanently switching to competing suppliers. According to the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters, producers have lost roughly 1.5 billion rand in potential sales since Qatar suspended imports of South African lamb in June 2024. And we cap off our top stories swinging back to the FIFA World Cup with one of the initial controversies which had Somalian referee Artan banned from entering the United States. Somali soccer referee Omar Abdulkadir Artan, who was denied entry into the United States to officiate the 2026 FIFA World Cup, will receive his full tournament fee despite taking no part in the competition. The Trump administration said the United States denied Artan entry because of his links to suspected members of terror organizations. A source familiar with the matter said FIFA has committed to paying his salary even though he will not officiate at the tournament. Artan, Africa's referee of the year in 2025, had been set to become the first Somali to officiate at soccer's global showpiece before being turned back by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Thank you very much for staying with us. Soon we'll be joined by talent Gore as she delivers the Zimbabwe report. It's time for Talent Gore to deliver the Zimbabwe report. Now, in Zimbabwe, the competition academically is very, very high, to the point that sometimes when people apply for university places at the University of Zimbabwe, they have to go back to grade 7 results to find the first B, because the competition is that high from A level to O level. A lot of students have got lots of A's and they are focused on what they like to do, and we know that Zimbabweans pride themselves on their education, which is why it comes to no surprise that a father wants to sue ZIMSEC, is suing ZIMSEC because they've capped O-level subjects at 9. In other words, he's saying that he wants his child to be able to do as many subjects as they want to.
And in my next story, the Zimbabwean government has embarked on a program to trace and reintegrate learners who have dropped out of school following revelations that nearly 40,000 pupils left the education system last year due to various challenges. According to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education's Management Information Systems report, a total of 39,736 learners dropped out of school in 2025, comprising 13,032 primary school pupils and 26,704 secondary school learners. The report identified financial constraints, early marriages, teenage pregnancies, and child labor as some of the major factors which are contributing to the high dropout rate. At primary school level, 116 pupils dropped out due to marriage, while 102 left school because of pregnancy. The report also noted that 138 learners with special needs discontinued their education, with the figures almost evenly distributed between boys and girls. Responding to the findings, the ministry spokesperson, Mr. Taungana Ndoro, said the government was treating the issue with the seriousness it deserves, stressing that every learner who leaves school prematurely represents a loss that must be reversed. Mr. Ndoro also said that the initiative is being implemented through the National Case Management System in partnership with the Ministry of Public Service, Labour and Social Welfare. Once stressed, learners are offered flexible reintegration pathways, including accelerated learning programs that enable them to rejoin school at age-appropriate levels. Mr. Taungana Ndoro also said that school development committees, village heads, and other community structures have also been empowered to monitor school-age children and ensure that no child remains outside the education system. So this is quite a good program that the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education is trying to bring to schools, which will help school dropouts to be reintegrated back into schools. As I've alluded to earlier, a lot of nearly 40,000 pupils dropped out of school last year due to teenage pregnancies, due to child marriages, and actually financial constraints. So these are some of the things that the government is trying to address and ensure that every child who is of school-going age, when they drop out of school, they may be and they can be reintegrated back into the schools.
Now, Talent, the Zimbabwean government is saying that it wants to trace school dropouts and reintegrate them into school.
Good morning, Africa. Now, in Zimbabwe, a Harare father has filed a High Court application challenging a government directive that caps the number of ordinary level subjects a pupil can register for at 9 after his academically gifted son was forced to drop 3 subjects he had already paid for at Mutare Boys High School. Now, Walter Muto, acting in his personal capacity and as the natural guardian of his minor son, Anesu Muto, filed the application on Wednesday. The application names ZIMSEC, which is the Zimbabwe School Examination Council, the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education, and Mutare Boys High School as respondents. Muto, in his founding affidavit, says he registered his son for 12 O-level subjects and paid the full examination fee on March 16, 2026. 8 days later, the school's head informed him that a new policy directive required Aniso to reduce his subjects to only 9. The directive, he was told, was drawn from a policy document titled the Heritage-Based Curriculum Framework, jointly issued and enforced by the Zimbabwe School Examination Council and the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. Ruto argues that neither the Zimbabwe School Examination Council Neither the Zimbabwe School Examination Council Act nor the Education Act empowers ZIMSEC or the minister to place such a cap on the number of subjects a learner may sit for, making the directive beyond their powers and therefore unlawful. Ruto also argues the cap violates Section 75 of the Constitution, which guarantees the right to education, and Section 68 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, which enshrines the right to administrative justice. He further contends the sudden implementation of directive after his son had already registered, prepared for and paid for 12 subjects constitutes a violation of the boy's legitimate examination. Apparently, you'll find out that I think I did a story I think late in December, where actually it was in November, where a student from Pamshana High School in Masvingo sat for 12 A-level subjects and scored 56 points. It later emerged that the school had not sought special permission from ZIMSEC for him to sit some of the exams after other students had taken the tests due to scheduling clashes. And after that incident, that is when the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education and the Zimbabwe School Examination Council came up with a new directive, with a new government policy, which states that ordinary level pupils are only supposed to sit for 9 examinations, for 9 O-level examinations, and for A-level for only 3 subjects examinations. So right now, this matter that was brought to the High Court is pending, but we are waiting to hear what the judge is going to say in this matter. But as of now,
all right, thank you, Talent. Sorry for cutting you off right at the end there. This is still Africa. Good morning. Just before you get into the loss of your stories, Talent, and for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye already to our audience on DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com, Network Media Hub, and NTVAFRIKA.MY.NA. Keep in mind, tonight it is France versus Senegal, and I trust all Africans are coming together for the AFCON champions. We certainly wish them all the best at that 9 p.m. game at the FIFA World Cup. Now, swinging back to Talent, we're talking about the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, which has passed Parliament stage and is heading to committee stage at this point. This is after the parliamentary debate. Keeping in mind, this Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 seeks to change the presidential term limits, enabling President Emmerson Mnangagwa to stay until 2030. As we say, Swerai Zvakanaka. Here is Talent Gore.
And in my other story, the debate on the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3 enters a critical phase this Tuesday as Parliament resumes deliberations on what has become one of the most extensively debated pieces of legislation in recent years. The bill has generated sustained engagement in the National Assembly, with legislators from across the political divide contributing their views on a range of proposed constitutional changes. One of the most prominent proposals under discussion has been the extension of the electoral cycle from 5 to 7 years, a provision that has attracted significant support during the debate. Other proposals that have gained traction include granting the president authority to appoint an additional 10 senators and introducing a parliamentary process for the election of the president. Legislators have also expressed differing views on the proposals to merge the Gender Commission and the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, as well on the participation of traditional leaders in politics. Right now, or before this, the introduction of the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, traditional leaders were supposed or are supposed to be partisan in Zimbabwean politics. But right now, the bill seeks to also include the participation of traditional leaders into politics. And as the debate enters its 7th day this Tuesday, more members of parliament are expected to take the floor before the House considers the next stage of the legislative process. Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Ziyambi indicated that Parliament could move to the committee stage if the number of remaining contributors is limited. And he also said that from this Tuesday, they will allow those who still want to debate to do so. And once members of Parliament are satisfied, and all those who wish to contribute had their opportunity, Minister Ziyambi will deliver his response addressing the issues raised by members of Parliament. That will also pave the way for members of Parliament to move to the committee stage of the bill. And he said that it all depends on how the debate progresses today. Some honorable members are now repeating points that have already been raised, and the appetite for debate appears to be slowing down. He indicated that if all goes well, they may have fewer members of Parliament wishing to debate, allowing members of Parliament to proceed. However, the decision rests with those who still want to contribute. He says that they will assess the situation this Tuesday as to how many have been registered to debate, and if the number is small, they can move to the committee stage. Among its key provisions, the constitutional amendment register as to how many have been registered to debate, and if the number is small, they can move to the committee stage. Among its key provisions, the Constitutional Amendment Number 3 bill proposes transferring responsibility for administering the voters' roll from the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission to the Registrar General's Office, while also providing the establishment of the Zimbabwe Electoral Delimitation Commission. With debates now entering a decisive stage, attention will be on Parliament this week as legislators continue scrutinizing the proposed constitutional changes before the bill advances further through the legislative process. So this week, legislators will be debating before the bill advances through the legislative process to another stage. So that is all, and we will be monitoring how the debate is progressing and how members of Parliament are taking or are deliberating their views on the Constitutional Amendment Number 3 bill.